Okay, call the meeting to order.
At 10:02.
I'll let you take over, Brian. It's your meeting.
Oh, please. Okay, let's see if we can get on with it. Now, we have did we have an order of the three that?
Yes.
Yes, Sullivan Lashane is first.
Okay,
Then it's elements and then T2.
Correct.
all right, so we'll tell Leslie too, we're going to give each of them 3 to 5 minutes. And keep the extraneous comments to a minimum and have a discussion after and pick one.
So Leslie, to reiterate what Brian just said, we thought we'd each take a turn with a question if we have them, and then do a second round if we have second questions. Are you in?
Yes, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I was gonna ask if we had a set of questions, or if we're kind of just if everybody's got their own questions that they're bringing, or what.
And I actually put people down on a list to go in the same order so that we just keep some kind of order. With Brian Usino first, Brian Santos, Joanne, Leslie, Tara, and then I'll go last.
Do we have a set of questions?
I prepared some. I don't, if you have some.
Yeah, I don't have any. I didn't prepare any formal questions.
But as we go
I'm
through,
sure some will come.
maybe some will come up.
Yep.
So maybe I'll start because I have a list.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only really question when I was thinking about this, the only real question I have is about measurement, you know, and I think what they're going to leave us with, you know, so.
So that's great, Leslie. Those two are on my list, so you can ask them.
Why don't we let them in then, guys, because they've only got 45 minutes each. And
Yeah, so we need to make
we've just burned the first 5.
We need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Santos?
Yep.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Okay. I'm going to let Chris in first.
Okay. There he is. Hi, Chris. And Brian.
And Dan Tapper. We've got 3 Sullivan and Lashanes, is that correct?
Yes, none of us are named Sullivan or Lashane.
Good morning.
That was one of my questions.
But now 2 people on the call are named Brian.
3.
There are 3.
Uh-oh.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
3.
Yeah, and we're
Not
missing.
impossible that we'll get another one.
Yeah,
And we all spelled it the proper way. That's good.
Yes.
yeah. It just except for you, Brian. We're all maybe.
Brian, do you want to fill in them on the process or should I?
Well, we're going to give you a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, whatever you need to fill us in on your proposal. We've all read what you had sent over, and then we will put you back in the waiting room, and we have a couple others to listen to.
No, it's the other way around, Brian. We're doing them one after another in 45-minute blocks.
That's right.
Oh, so never mind. We'll have to let Renee explain because I'm learning as we go too.
So after the 3 to 5, we do have rounds of questions. Folks will have questions, and then we'll just give you a few minutes to wrap up at the end. Does that sound fair?
Sure thing. And,
Yes,
and
it does.
we have, we put together some slides, particularly because you've asked about some design and other experience things. And Chris Sicaro has them on his computer. I don't know if you're able to enable him to screen share. But if we'll take as much of the 5 as we can, because we put together just a little bit about who we are, obviously, you know, and why we chose the strategies and tactics that we did. And we do have, and maybe if you want to, we've got those slides that also talk about some of our relevant experience in the design, but, you know, we'll certainly adapt and maybe just show those as we go through your questions. To your process. So
I am Leslie.
Yeah,
help me? I'm trying to find
if what it is that you want to present, you know, would naturally take more than the 5 minutes, then yes, you can screen share as you go as they seem relevant to what you're being asked. As soon as Renee finds the
I'm
share
on
screen
the share
option.
button. I'm not seeing an
If they just request, if they hit screen share, it's going to pop up on your Renee as the host to approve.
Okay, so Chris will have to request from me.
Okay. I'll just need to find that first.
Should be right down in the middle, a green button.
Ah, there it is. Yep. Thank you.
Leslie always saves the day.
There we go.
right. Well, if without further ado, I'm happy to jump in. Just make sure this is muted. Good morning, and thank you on behalf of Pat Sullivan, Patty Lashane, who are our bosses, and Dan, Chris, and myself. Thank you for the opportunity to be one of your finalists to build a marketing program and a plan for Thompson Green and Growing. Sullivan and Lashane is in our 32nd year, and we were established by Pat and Patty not long after they had set up a government relations firm. But we are a separate company. We're not lobbyists, we're storytellers. And what we do for our clients is the equivalent of helping them channel and authentically convey their story and their narrative and do so on their terms. We're a lean team. We work 24/7 and we're available to our clients at any time. And Chris, why don't we, so I'll just say I'm Brian Flaherty. I have been the executive vice president here, kind of the team leader at the company. And my background is I live in Watertown, my hometown, and served in the state legislature. This could be dangerous, but with both Sean and Kevin Johnston, and who are both good friends, but left there to go to work for Nestle Waters North America to run their public policy shop, and then spent 4 years at CBIA talking about small business, going all over and talking about growing the state. And now I'm in a small business actually helping and hoping to grow this. And so that is my background. I'll let Dan and then Chris just briefly introduce themselves and we'll get rolling.
Thank you, Brian, and good morning to everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. We do greatly appreciate it. I'm Dan Tapper. I'm the Senior Account Manager here at Sullivan & Lashane. I've been at the agency for about 13 years. A little background about myself. My career began 30 years ago as a daily newspaper reporter. Please don't hold that against me. For the Journal Inquirer in Manchester. I did that for about 6.5, 7 years. I then worked in politics. Brian and I got to know each other working in the Capitol and General Assembly for 10 years as a press secretary. So one of my earliest people I worked for was then Senator Don Williams, who I believe at the time was living in Thompson. And then did that for many years. I worked for Lieutenant Governor's office and the Secretary of State's office in a communications director capacity. And for the last 13 years, I've been working at Sullivan & Lashane, managing accounts, working with good people on a daily basis, really to help tell their story on their terms. And if I have ever had to just reduce what we do down to a single sentence, it's helping people tell their stories on their terms. And in this project, which we're very excited about, you have a wonderful new brand that you come up with. We'd be helping you bring that brand to life. So that's me. It's good to see you all. And I will now allow Chris to introduce himself.
Sure. Thanks everybody for having us, and thanks again for the opportunity. My name is Chris. I've been with Sullivan and Lashane for roughly 2.5 years now, coming up about 10 years of experience in various communication capacities. Like Dan and Brian, I consider myself a storyteller, more so on the content side where my expertise lies in design, social media, digital media, but certainly quite a bit of background in media relations. Apologies for the phone call. I live here in the Hartford region. I grew up in the Colchester area, which geographically isn't close to Thompson, but I certainly remember long bus trips up to Tortolot a couple times a year to play them in sports. So fairly familiar with the town. Just thanks again for the opportunity to present with you guys.
Thank you, Chris. If you want to go to the next 2 slides in the strategies and tactics. Certainly the objectives were set in your RFP. Those are your words. And what we built and have proposed to you is our plan to help achieve them. And our strategies are really 2 main. First is to kick off our engagement with a sit down, to the extent we can sit here or remotely, with a communications development session. We find that, Chris, can you advance 1 slide, please? Thank you. To really assess the current situation, build the elements of the campaign. You are a town of 10 villages, as you know better than we do. And green and growing can mean a lot of things. And we find that to be able to connect and to talk with your branding subcommittee, with economic development, with the town leaders and people who live there, and will help us bring green and growing to life. And what that means in a way that you do what a brand needs to do, which is to have that enduring essence that was talked about in the NECOG program, and that clear and consistent identity to project out to the world, to project to the people that you want to bring in, whether so that you can remain growing and obviously green as well. So the first part would be really to start with that strategic communications development and then design the marketing plan to reinforce and roll out that brand. And part of that also would include a calendar. And we can talk a little bit about Dan and Chris, when we worked for the town of East Haddam, developed an annual calendar to make sure that they were making the most of whether it's your townwide tag sale or any of the other festivals that happen, or things that are happening in the state of Connecticut that we can then work with you to connect so that people who don't live in Thompson might see that whatever, if it's Arbor Day, here's a connection, here's what it means. Hey, why don't we go to Thompson? Look what they're doing. So the idea is to build that calendar and to equip you with what you need to help market this new brand that you built.
Yeah, and Brian, this is Dan. What that calendar will do is give you a blueprint, a month by month blueprint of the wonderful things that are happening in Thompson that can be rolled out a month at a time. We'll put that together for you. Brian mentioned we did that for the town of East Haddam. We sat down with the town leaders in East Haddam for a couple hours a couple years ago, and we went through it with them month to month. What's big, what's popular, what excites people this time of year, this time of year, this time of year, and with all the information we were able to gather, we were then able to put that into a creative campaign of steady media outreach. Find out that the various avenues and channels that it can be targeted to, and make it very strategic and very targeted, but it gives you a really nice map to follow throughout the year. So that once we have our messages down, once we have that narrative that allows us to bring this really nice new brand to life, then we build that calendar of media relations. And it'll be for a full year for you, something we've done before, and we would look forward to doing that. And I'll let Chris briefly talk about the brand package.
Thanks, Dan. So as the proposal calls for, you need a brand, which, as I'm sure you know, is the first thing people notice when they're encountering any sort of campaign. What we'll do for you is we'll put together a logo that you approve of, that you're comfortable with, And what the package entails is all the files that you would need for that brand, the logo in the JPEG format, the vector format, which would be the most important, TIFF, PNG for your websites. We can also supply, well, we will also supply a branding guide that goes through the different stylings of the logo, your fonts, your colors, your color codes, and the different environments and ways that you can lay out the branding. That way, you stay consistent in all the different environments and all the different uses you use the branding in. You know, there's many instances where this branding gets handed down to different people, and it's best just to have a consistent use of the branding across departments, across town. And this makes it's basically an instruction guide for how to use the brand, and it makes things very easy. So that'd be a big part of the branding package as well. And if there's other types of files that you would need that us to develop for you in terms of the logo, we're certainly able to do that for you.
What our goal, and thank you for letting us do this, is to give you the tools in this marketing plan, not just of a calendar and these other elements in the messaging, but really the targets, realtors, other chambers of commerce, ways to reach out beyond the border of your town to capture and build that brand and make it stick. I think the way that you talk about doing in the RFP. We're a company that always tries to work where 2 and 2 equals 5 or 6. In other words, we put for our clients, we make connections. We try and put pieces together. Tira, our first conversation was probably, I think, a good example of that when we were working with 3 Tiers for Connecticut, when we saw the coverage in the Norwich Bulletin of the Nips for Holiday Cheer, called our client, said, look, you should learn about this. Are you interested? We think there's something here that can be greater than just within the 4 corners of what he asked us to do. And that's what we pride ourselves in doing. It's what we hope to be able to do for you.
So we thought we would just give you some looks at the different branding that we've done recently. And we have a couple of slides here, different brands. And then if you need me to slow down so you get a look, just let me know. Recently, Bushnell Park, which is nearby our office here in Hartford, the oldest public park in the country, they're getting ready to do a big Earth Day celebration. Unfortunately, that didn't work out because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but we put together a great branding package for them that they were happy with. We also do a lot of branding for different events and series. You'll see that here with like the Meet the Media and What's Your Story. Then the Campaign School at Yale, that was actually a rebrand. They were formerly known as the Women's Campaign School at Yale. It was essentially, for lack of a better word, like a camp for 5 days where women that were interested in entering politics at Yale could go to this workshop for 5 days and learn from different politicians and political leaders on how to run for office. They felt with the current times going on that Women's Campaign School wasn't very inclusive, so they decided to rebrand, change the campaign school, and they reached out to us for some guidance on how to rebrand. Moving on to some other stuff. As we've mentioned before, the Don't Trash Connecticut, Nip It in the Bin campaign has been extremely successful over the past year. We've gotten many compliments regarding the branding that we implemented, including from Governor Lamont. The blue and the green, very relatable to recycling and earth and environment. And of course, it resonates with Connecticut residents thanks to the whalers and the yard goats. People love that color combination. And of course, we'll explain more about that campaign later in this presentation. Some more branding examples of events and learning series that we've done. The Honor in Connecticut's Women Game Changers was supposed to be a big event that was going to happen at the state capitol this past spring, but again, the COVID-19 pandemic didn't allow that to happen. So hopefully in the coming months, when things hopefully settle down a little bit more, we'll be able to move forward with that branding campaign as well. Infographics. If you're not familiar with infographics, it's a great way to take very complex information when you have a lot of information and break it down into an easy to understand, visually pleasing graphic. It's certainly become one of our bread and butter here at Sullivan & Lashane. We've won a couple of awards for it, and it's something that fits us very well because we have a lot of expertise in messaging and breaking down information, but we also have our background in design too. So infographics is another service that we've offered in our years. Digital and social, as I'm sure you're aware, digital and social is everything now. You know, if you don't have a presence online, you're probably not going to make it. It's critical to have your presence online. And you'll notice here in our examples that there's different dimensions for each ones. And that's because each platform that's available now is different. So what works on your website may not work on your Facebook. It's not going to work on your Instagram. You need to be able to take your brands, you need to be able to take your color schemes, you need to adapt it to the dimensions that'll work on each of those platforms. For instance, to the right here, you got stuff for Twitter. On the left here, you have a banner for a website. And then on the top left here, you have things that will work for Facebook and LinkedIn. So you can clearly see that there's differences needed. If something doesn't fit correctly on social or digital, it's very noticeable. And the whole key to digital is you want to be able to capture people's attention with your visuals. That way they'd be able to look deeper into your messaging. So a lot of experience with digital and social on our end. And then finally, collateral. And collateral is more of the stuff that you see in person, your lawn signs, your banners, your stickers, we have a door hanger design here to the left. And this is the stuff that people are going to see in person. And it's a great example here on the right with the nip it in the bin. And this is where the style guide comes in handy, because you can see that there's consistency throughout these materials. You know that they're part of the same campaign. There's no deviances from the different colors. It just all works and it's fluid. And that is a big part of what can make a campaign successful. So those are examples that we have in our branding, our infographics, our collateral, and our digital and social. And before I move on to the next slide, which is going to be more of experience in campaigns, I'm happy to go back and show you other examples, unless you're comfortable with me moving on.
Comfortable moving on.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll turn it over to Brian.
So with 3 Tiers for Connecticut, it started with an idea that basically if you want to make a difference, start in your own front yard. And we saw an RFP for an organization called 3 Tiers for Connecticut. And they represent the manufacturers, the wholesalers, and the retailers of wine, spirits, beer. And they knew they had a problem with the nip bottles. And they also knew enough that sometimes those small bottles can wreak havoc, certainly on roadsides and on waterways, but also within the recycling apparatus. And so they came together, formed a 501c3 organization, teamed up with an organization called Live Green, used to be called Live Green Connecticut down in Norwalk, to come up with a 5-year public service campaign that we designed for them with 3. The number 3 comes back yet again with 3 things. 1, community cleanups. And they've had 2. They had another one that was planned as part of their first of the year, part of that Bushnell Park Earth Day celebration that Chris had showed you the logo of a little bit before. But they've had collected about almost a half ton of litter. Yes, a lot of nips, but also a lot of other things in these community cleanups, what they've done, partnering with Live Green. And that's part 1. Part number 2 is point of sale education, putting posters and putting stickers at the place where people buy those nips, and making sure that they see it and understand it. And yes, a catchy slogan, nip it in the bin. Don't trash Connecticut, nip it in the bin. Put litter in its place. And the point of sale education can work and does work. The third piece, which they really was also slowed down a bit by the COVID-19 pandemic, is the placement of bins in public places. Larry Cafaro, who heads the organization, and also the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of Connecticut, had a meeting with the Deputy Commissioner of the Connecticut DEEP to start mapping out areas that deep feels are good places to go. He's talking with some mayors and first selectmen. He's established a relationship now with Thompson together, and about making sure that proper disposal is accessible, and particularly where people gather. And the hard part is right now there was also something about they were going to do cleanup crews at, let's say, in the middle of different concerts and town greens and other things, but there won't be some of those gatherings for a while. But anyway, we worked with them, rolled out the campaign, and we generated, and what we measure how one of the measures for success is that earned media, not paid for ads, but where's the coverage in the media, in social media. We generated over $100,000 in earned media just in the first year of their campaign alone. They're happy with it. They know they've got a lot more to do, but what their primary goal was to take action, not just talk about something, but show that they were putting some skin in the game. And it's been a fun partnership to work on. I learned more about litter than I ever would want to know. Chris. And
Very quickly,
sorry.
No, I'll talk quickly about our engagement with the town of East Haddam. A couple of years ago, I gave a presentation on how to handle a crisis when it hits the public, when it hits the media, on how to communicate properly in the time of crisis. That was at the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, CCM's annual meeting. From there, we got a call from the town of East Haddam that said, we'd like to be prepared in case a crisis ever hits. We'd also like to do things more proactive and maybe have a plan built for us. And so we did both. We sat down and wrote them a crisis plan. We simulated a few crises and that involved the media, just within one room, a tabletop session, just to make sure our plan worked. The team worked, the plan worked, our messages worked. And then we spent some time with them to do, I think, what you are asking us in part to do, build that year-long calendar, build that media relations plan, a blueprint for them to follow throughout the year. And we were able to do that and work very collaboratively, learn much like in Thompson, that there's an awful lot to offer in a small town like East Haddam, a small town like Thompson. And it's just a question of finding ways to surface those stories and finding ways to get them to the media. So that was our work with East Haddam. And then very quickly on our next slide, just in terms of, we've done a lot of work in rolling brands out, pardon me. Much like this case where you have already created a brand of the green and growing community. Several of our clients had brands that they wanted, that they had created and that they wanted help in bringing to the public. Masonicare, one of the state's largest senior living community. Bloom Shapiro, the state's largest accounting and tax advisory firm. Both had new brands, new logos. You see them in front of you there. We did not create those. We were charged with bringing those to the public and talking about what they meant and why the brands were important and what they meant to the organization and to the state. And then on the bottom there, most recently during this crisis, the Credit Union League of Connecticut, they hired us to do media relations and push this new brand out of credit unions themselves being what they call financial first responders. Call us if you're worried about your paycheck, worried about your mortgage, worried about your income at any level. During this crisis, call us. We are the first responders. And you see the logo there that generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in earned media. So with that, I know we've taken a few minutes here, and I hope this has been helpful. I think, Brian, at this point, we'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
So I think I'm going first, right, Brian?
Yes.
I see you gave us the example of Haddam, East Haddam. I'm really interested to see if there was any other additional work you've done for municipalities. As we all know, we're a unique animal. And so I'm reaching out for that to see if there's any more experience there, and also working with a demographic that we live in Thompson. I would be interested to see if your ideas on that and any other experience with municipalities.
Well, go ahead, Brian.
Dan, I'll follow you.
Well, our experience with municipalities, contracting directly with the town, like we do with East Haddam, not quite as much. We have worked, however, very closely with municipalities on a number of major projects. For example, the redevelopment of downtown Westport, which was a somewhat controversial project that needed careful stewardship with the media and with the public, and it required us to work very closely with town officials and with town residents. A very large church in Fairfield which wanted to expand and was met initially with a lot of hostility and a lot of pushback. We were called in to, again, kind of calm things down. But really, at the heart of it, listen, adapt, and then work with the town, work with the people to really present this project in the best possible light. Regarding, we've done similar things in West Hartford and Stamford. Regarding East Haddam itself, it's interesting because East Haddam, I think, is similar to Thompson. It's a small town, a bit off the beaten path, with a lot to offer. I mean, you guys are kind of the literal quiet corner, with the 10 villages, with the trails, with some really nice assets, with a real commitment to green and to green and the environment. There's a lot there. East Haddam similarly was a town along the Connecticut River, a very idyllic looking community that was just very quiet. So it was really all about surfacing those ideas. So Brian, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just say this. Our team background also, Renee, is steeped in working with municipalities. Patty Lashane, who's our CEO, Hartford's not exactly a small town, but Patty has for years been on the Hartford Parking Authority and other commissions. She's been on at least 2 search committees when the city was looking for new superintendents of schools. We have worked and have familiarity with the towns. Dan has also worked with the Council of Small Towns, and I suppose Watertown and 20,000 people, I think of as a moderately small town, but I have 15 years of experience representing Watertown, Woodbury, and Middlebury in the House of Representatives, and working hand in hand with Woodbury, which is about 7,000 people, and Middlebury maybe about 9 with their Board of Selectmen, and so there's the experience that we have, and Dan from his time also working in the General Assembly with people, with the towns, that we bring to the table as well.
Okay, I know some other folks had some
Sure.
questions. I know specifically Leslie had something to ask.
Yeah, I had a few questions, but they were answered. So one of them was just going to be, what are you going to leave us with? And I think you spoke to the calendar piece and the rollout component. But one of the things about Thompson is that currently we have, many folks marketing and doing promotion of many different events and different departments. So can you speak to, how you would streamline that for us? Whereas now we don't have a designated marketing person in our office. We have a part-time intern in the past, but what would that look like, and what would your guidance be when it comes to rolling out the brand?
Well,
That's a great question. I'm sorry, Brian. That's a great question, Leslie. And I can certainly start there. And I think you got to the heart of it. There needs to be, the beauty of messaging is how unifying it can be, and having a good, strong message and a good, strong narrative to deliver. And getting everybody on board, focusing on the same brand, the same kind of message, whether it's promoting a town fair, a town cookout, a tag sale, a series of trail, regardless of what it's promoting, kind of having this unifying skin around it, brought forward by the message and the brand is I think the best way to get everybody on board. And Brian, I know you were starting to say something. I don't want to I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I think that's a really good way to put it. And it's also really, I think will depend on working with you. You have one brand, and to the extent there, with all those different activities, Leslie, there's unity of purpose around what you're doing, and buying into to marketing your town as a green and growing community outwardly. I think that helps unify as well. So I think it'd be that one of the first things that we do is picking the roster of who's going to be part of this messaging, and make sure it's got a good cross section like this does. Renee, you're the town clerk. We got people from economic development, and if there's buy-in there, if you've got some people, it was very interesting to listen to and observe the Zoom or the webinar that you held on Tuesday about the wayfinding. I mean, just that idea. There was that one slide where you had all those different shapes and sizes of signs. This brand and branding process can be like, I think, what you're looking to do for the wayfinding, which is to get that consistency, to get that theme. And I think the critical thing will be those first steps You've built the brand that I think can unify the town, but it's just who's coming to the table and make sure that as we create this marketing plan, that you've got people who can help shape that and build that unity of purpose, and then realize, oh wow, this connects to how I'm going to do the townwide tag sale. This connects to if the next Thompson Community Day that we do, and kind of unifies around that.
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Hey guys, it's Brian Santos here. First and foremost, great job on the proposal and the presentation today. Very impressive.
Thank you.
I am big on roles and responsibilities, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear on a few things. So as I understand it, Dan, you're kind of the storyteller, and Chris, you're more the visual branding graphics guy. Is that the correct? Am I understanding that properly?
I would say that's correct, Brian. We do work as one team in concert, you know, with each part complementing the others. But yes, I mean, my skill and background certainly is as a storyteller, rooting out, getting to the heart of what those messages really are, the best way to tell the story. And quite honestly, one thing I didn't touch on, when we sit down for our message development session, we're also going to want to figure out the things that are maybe challenges, you know, vulnerabilities, if you will, things that we can't be afraid to sit in a room and put down on a board. What concerns us here? You know, what are those things that we need to address, and then find messages to address those. So yes, you are correct. That's my role. And Chris on the digital and social media side is certainly our guru there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I love some of your keywords with outreach and blueprinting. Those really struck a chord with me. I think we need that in the town of Thompson. And specifically to your actual proposal, you guys wrote a nice little timeline, days 1 through 13, 14 to 21. I'm assuming that both Chris and yourself, Dan, will be a part of those meetings. Is that correct? For like the first, I don't know, 3 months or whatever?
That is correct.
We'll be,
whether we're sitting in a room together, which hopefully someday we can, or whether we're doing it like this, yes, I believe Chris and myself will both be a part of that. Chris, I'm correct there, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Although I think the messaging session would be Brian and you, but certainly when it comes to the design and social media aspects, me. Yep.
And
okay.
Brian, you get all of us. And the thing, as Dan said, we're a team, and what if you choose us, you get all of us in our industries to build this plan, and then also, Leslie, this may also kind of answer your question of, it's not that we just leave the baby on the doorstep after 60 days of developing it, but you know, which we want to do to make the most of your budget, obviously, but also we want to come back, and there's something in there, I think, in the tactics about after a couple of months, we want to get back together because we want to make sure that you feel that it's progressing the way that you want to, and it gives us an opportunity together to make some adjustments to it. So I just want to make sure that I highlighted that as well, because it's a very important part of what we're trying to do. And I'm going to take this call. Excuse me.
No worries. Thank you, Brian. As far as, I don't mean to keep on asking questions here, Renee, so this you can shoot me down here if I'm asking too many. But as far as, you know, the days through 1 through 13, 14, 21, so on and so forth, how is that tracked? And the reason I'm asking that question, is it like meeting minutes or some other mechanism? And the reason I'm asking that question is I just want to make sure that we are moving forward with things as fast as possible and getting this branding done and being able to take those notes, I'll just call them notes, and publicly putting them on our website to get people excited and let people know what we're doing. I don't know if we're actually going to do that. I'm just kind of making that up. But I feel like it's important to keep things fresh and excited and making people recognize what our town is doing from the branding perspective. So can you just kind of outline to the group how you're going to be capturing our thoughts and processes?
Sure. Well, and you're singing my song there, Brian. I mean, this is all about engagement and excitement. And we thought the 60-day period was an appropriate one to move quickly, but thoughtfully. to roll the brand out and roll everything else out that we wanted to do with it. The timeline gives us all parameters within which to work. You know, we're going to hit the ground running, and it's the perfect way, I think, at the outset to gauge where we are. And one thing that I learned this as a daily newspaper reporter. Chris has learned this doing this for 10 years. Brian certainly as a lawmaker and all his experience, we know how to meet a deadline. We actually embrace deadlines. I think they're very valuable and they're very positive. So this lays out the parameters of which we can work and lets us know that we got to hit the ground running and we got to work quickly but thoughtfully. You're going to hear from us a lot. You're going to see progress as you see on a very regular basis. We expect pushback. We expect back and forth, and you're going to be able to show people. We can assure you along the way, day 22, day 30, and not even when they ask, but even before they ask, here's the progress that we are making as a team. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And my final question, and it's more for my group. Are we asking the bidders not only to do a website, or are we doing hard copies of things as well? I saw some graphics there, some banners and stuff like that. I'm sorry to ask such a dumb question to my group. I just wanted to make sure I was
Not at
clear.
all.
Is it just website stuff or hard package stuff as well?
I think we're looking for, hard copy, digital, everything. I mean, I think one of the things, for me that I realized is, I've in the past I've focused a lot on social media, but we do get, print ad response, yard sign response. So it is, I mean, it's across the board. And I think these guys would agree, looks like they're presenting, hitting all platforms,
So we have 2 minutes,
Okay.
1 minute left. I want to give anybody else opportunity to ask a question.
Yeah, let me take one. And I want to ask this question because I know each of you came into each of the three vendors came into the webinar on Tuesday. So I want to get away from the idea of proposal speak, which is you telling us about you. I want you in like a speed dating format, since we're tight on time here, to say what you think of what you've seen of us so far, because getting into your impressions is going to give me an idea of where you're going to lead us later.
So I'm just going to tap out. That was one of my questions with what you know about us. Give us an example of what, this could look like. But I also wanted to know, because most of the people on this call are members of a board or committee, and that's how they're serving in this process. What would you require of us? I mean, it's 60 days, you're going to move fast. So what kind of time commitment from the rest of us are you going to need? Oh.
Well, I'll start with the last question first. And I apologize for answering the phone and the doorbell there, but like I said, we do everything here all together. The 60 days is really certainly not the whole rollout, but that 60-day time frame is to make sure that we're on track to develop the elements of the plan and make sure that it's vetted and gets back. And I think the biggest thing that we could need, Renee, would be, I suppose, a clarity of who are the people that we're dealing with, who are the point people, and that we establish that, for example, when we've got some designs for you to look at, we've got some narrative to look at, that we establish together. And I think one of the first things we do would be to modify this timeline and to vet it so that we know that we can reach one another, that we'll have a fast turnaround, and that if there are in fact different people, Brian, like you said, with different responsibilities, that we know exactly who to be working with.
Okay.
And I think that's what we have found to be successful, and we get and we'll do our work, and we'll make sure and that we've kind of laid this out so you don't just get hit with something on day 59 and say, oh, well, here you go. The other thing is we're excited about working with you. I'd like to hike the airline trail. I'd like this. I've seen pictures of River Mill. It's been a while since I've been in Thompson. I promised Boy, a long time ago, Sean Johnson, I'd jump in the lake. I think it was at Aquatic State Park on Thanksgiving, and I never made good on that promise. I'm not sure if you're still doing it. But, and I'll say this is, I like to ride bikes a lot. And when you were nice enough to keep me on the phone for a while at the Economic Development Committee meeting a couple of weeks ago. You talked about wanting to have a bike event, a national or international bike event, want to draw. I'm a triathlete. I love to go around to different places and ride and run. And so I think I'm excited about learning about the town. I'm excited about helping you not gloss over the differences in all those 10 villages, but have a way to make them harmonize through that one brand. And then stump my family. And I think being able to say Grosvenordale and pronounce everything right. You should hear people trying to get around Watertown.
And just to very quickly add to what Brian said, I think we're looking at an unpolished gem in Thompson. I spent time out there many years ago when I was doing public relations for Senator Williams and a few others. My wife and I try to take a sojourn out to your part of the state once a year to stay at an inn and just to spend a night or a weekend out there. It is quiet. I love how you're embracing green, you're embracing the environment. One thing I've heard from a lot of clients, and I've seen myself, is these past 3 months, in interesting ways, and we saw this with 3 tiers as well, is actually putting people a little more attuned to their environment and protecting it, and being more careful with how we act around nature and around our natural resources. So you rolling this brand out at this time, I think, gives us a tremendous opportunity. And as far as I can tell, you're the only town right now that is doing that is really focusing on a new brand built around environmental sanctity and a green future. And so thank you for asking that question.
Tiara,
Thank you.
Good. Okay. Are we?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I think we can skip the wrap up though, because we're 5 minutes over time.
We got lots of good information. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for the opportunity.
So we're going to ask.
Hey guys, and I'll be in touch next week with all of the final candidates to let you guys know the final choice.
Many thanks. We look forward to working with you.
Our deadline is June 30th to sign a contract, just so you know.
Okay, terrific.
Sounds good to us.
We'll be ready.
Take care,
All right.
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Everybody.
Stay well.
Bye-bye.
Okay, they're out. I'm going to let the next two in. And this is from,
Elements. Should be Catherine Erb and Amy Graver, I think.
yes. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Amy. Sorry we're late.
Hello. I just turned my audio on, so I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Sorry for being a few minutes late. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
Okay. Are we good? Electronics are good? Okay. I thought Amy might have frozen there. So how we're working it is we're just going to give you an opportunity to give us your rundown, and then we'll open it up for questions to the members of the committees.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, Amy is frozen.
Uh-oh, let me let her know.
I love technology.
Oh, yes.
Like she's logging out and logging back in.
Yeah, probably. We'll give it a minute.
Sorry about that. I just sent her a message. I think she already got the hint, but.
Well, she's definitely logged out now, so if she's coming back in, then yeah, she's figured it out.
Okay.
Catherine, if you want to get started in the meantime, that's fine, especially since we're running a couple of minutes behind.
Let's just give Amy another second. I think she was planning to share her screen.
Okay.
Okay.
She and I communicate via Slack, so I just wanted to make sure I had this available so I can message her. Okay.
Oh, there she is.
Okay.
And there she is.
Welcome, Amy.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't know. My internet dropped and I had to change. Luckily, I have more than one internet provider, so I had to change, not provider, but Wi-Fi. So I
Okay,
changed Wi-Fi's.
that's fine. We've all experienced this in the last 3 months.
So sorry.
We're gonna let you get started. Do you want, you were gonna share your screen or?
Oh, I can. So you want to just go over the RFP as we submit it to you, right?
Yeah, we thought I mean, we all read the proposal and we thought we'd give you some time to highlight some things and then time for questions.
Sure. Okay, just give me 1 second here. Let's see. I think I have to open it in the background. And, okay. Now I go back. So still learning all the ins and outs of Zoom here. Right.
Luckily, 99% of the meetings I'm on, I'm with Leslie. She saves my butt.
I need a Leslie.
We all need a Leslie.
If you go down to the bottom and go to the green screen share, I think it'll be there. Yeah, great. Then,
Yeah, I did that. I didn't have the document open, so I went to go screen share and I didn't see it. So here we go.
Here we go.
So
We're good.
I had to go find it and open it. Okay. So I'm not even going to bother. We're trying to make it fit in the window. Let's just go.
That's good. Let's
Okay.
go.
All right, let's go. So background. So I'll give you a little background. So it's 100% woman-owned business, myself. And I opened Elements in 1999. So I'm going on, July will be 22 years. And Catherine and I have been working together. How long, Catherine?
It's been 6 or like maybe going on 7 years now.
So yeah, so and we also put Phil in our proposal. He's not with us today on the call, but he does our web. And let me see. So I was in New Haven, and we moved to Brantford probably about 10 or 11 years ago. And we've done a lot of work. One of the reasons we're attracted to your RFP is we've done a lot of work with cities. We didn't include all the work we've done with cities. I think we put in the New London public schools, but we've also done a lot of work with the city of New Haven. We've done a lot with Market New Haven, Info New Haven, the City of New Haven Office of Cultural Affairs, the Arts Council, and several of the art venues. So we just have experience working and how they work with municipalities and things of that nature. And certainly a lot of experience working with boards and getting consensus with boards and navigating that. We have a very diverse portfolio. We've worked with small companies, larger companies, not-for-profits, all different types of industries. We pride ourselves in being, we think our areas of expertise are branding, but also rolling out that branding to an organization. So we act sort of as marketing departments for many of our clients. And I think that's where we really excel. We can do a one-off brochure, things like that, but I think our real strong point is getting to know an organization or a company or nonprofit and understanding them deeply, and then carrying that branding and messaging and look and feel through all of the materials. and helping them strategically decide what those materials are and how they should position themselves in the marketplace, which is why we call ourselves a strategic integrated marketing company, because our list of services and the things that we provide were really determined by what our clients needed. And that's how we grew. So let me go to the next slide. So a little bit of background about myself. I already started to explain that I started Elements in 1999. I have an interesting route that I took to become a graphic designer. I had a parent who did not want me to go to art school, as many parents always joke about. But I went to Northeastern. I graduated with a journalism degree. I worked at the Boston Globe as a photojournalist in the beginning of my career. I got to be good friends with Andy McDowell, who was the editor of the Boston Globe magazine at the time, who started pairing me up with reporters. And I started hanging out in the art department, which is what I really wanted to do. But I love the marriage between coming up with the concept for the story, marrying it with the art, the fonts, the photography, the way they laid out the magazine, and the story, getting to know the people. And that's really was the foundation of me going to graphic design, because, and me naming the company Elements, because it combines all the different elements that go into graphic design, or all the things that I love. I love to write. I write often. I write articles, and I love photography. I like to photo direct and things like that when clients need it. And of course I love design, and I love the story. So that's a little background on me. And then Catherine, do you want to?
I don't have quite as much of an interesting background, but you know, I've always been interested in design ever since I was a kid. I pretty much always knew I wanted to be creative in some way, and I just kind of gravitated towards design. Studied graphic design communication in college, and have been working with Amy for 6, almost 7 years, and some experience before that. So not quite as interesting, but hopefully I'll get to grow a bio similar to Amy's.
And then, as we mentioned, Phil, who's a part of our everyday, but he's web, so he wasn't invited to our party today. We left him back at his desk working. So as I mentioned, our list of capabilities evolved around our clients' needs, and a lot of our clients like that we can do all of these things, so that if they hire us to do one thing, we're able to roll out all these other things. And I think it's that strategic umbrella that we can put over, so if we're doing multiple things for people, we look at the big picture, and we look at how they're all related and how they support one another, and try to give them the strongest plan for what their marketing needs to do, what their goals are. Our philosophy, so I'm sure you read about this, but we are a very tight-knit group. We do get involved in the projects together. We talk about them. We work together very collaboratively. Obviously, Catherine and I, having worked together for so many years, sometimes I'll be thinking of something. I won't have time to talk to Catherine about it. I'll come back a couple hours later, and she'll have done something that I had in mind. Well, that's what I would have said. So that's great. But we also, she'll also come up with unique things that I hadn't thought of. I like that there's different approaches. And we like to have a consensus in the beginning of the direction. We talk to our clients, and we move together and judge everything that we're doing against that criteria, that creative brief, which I think is in our process. So that's a little bit about us. We like to, basically graphic design is solving problems creatively, and that's what we like to do. So here's our creative process. So this is something that Catherine and I mean, we probably look at this a couple times a year and tweak it. Mm-hmm. It is always evolving. It has evolved every year from when we began, not majorly, but we're always improving upon it, refining it. So we pretty much have it down. This is a process that we've all developed together, and it works. And we've gone through hundreds of projects with this process, and we always have a successful conclusion. is there anything on our creative process that you wanted me to speak about, that you had any questions on, that maybe you wanted a little bit more information on it? No?
Anybody have any questions at this point? I think this speaks to the process, the timeline.
Our timelines are accurate, but we, of course, are always asked to do things, more quickly. So this is our ideal timeline. Catherine and I had a phone call yesterday, and the client wants to move quickly on this project. And she and I talked before we had the call, and we thought, okay, so if he asks us if we can do it more quickly, what are we going to say? Well, we'll say we can get it to him, what do we say, like Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah.
Then we got on the call and he said, yeah, we need this right away and all that. When are you thinking? Mid-July? Oh, no problem. That's not what we're used to. So anyway, all humor aside, this is our ideal timeline. This is what Catherine and I would like to have. The longest part of the process is coming up with the design concepts, as you can see, the 2 weeks. The revisions really depend on our client. It's how many people are we working with, how many people need to look at it, what's their availability, and how soon can you get back to us?
Yes, so at this point, I'll ask the same question.
Sure.
You're working with, like you said, you have experience working with committees. Most of the people on the call today are on a board or committee. They're volunteers on the board. So timing is I'd be interested to know with the time expected of us.
Okay.
Flexibility in that.
Well, so when working with boards, there's a couple ways to do it. Some boards like to be involved in every step of the process. Some boards like to see at least the design concept presentation. I wouldn't want them not to see it because we don't want to get to the end and somebody say something, right? We don't want to avoid that at all costs. So some boards like to see the design concept and then have a smaller subset of the board who's doing the couple revisions, and then they jump back into the process at the end when we're close to final. So that moves a lot faster that way, but I understand that there are circumstances and different boards work differently, that sometimes people need to be involved in all the steps. What Catherine and I ask for on our end is, even if everyone's looking at it at different times, that you give us one set of revisions. So when we get the comments back to us, everybody's comments are in that one email, if you will, because it's too overwhelming for us if everybody on the board is sending us different messages and copying, everybody, and it's hard for us to pick through and say, okay, where did we end up on this, revision and that sort of thing. So, but other than that, we're very flexible, and like I said, we have a deep understanding of how boards work. So things don't really throw us. We just did a project with the town of Brantford for they renamed their adult education. And we were part of the renaming process, and a tagline and a mission vision and a logo. When we started with the logo project, we gave them some concepts, and I think we went around deep into it. And then they said, none of these are really, working. We've discussed it again, and we want to go back to the concept stage. And I said, that's perfectly fine. We'll go back and give you, I think we went back and gave them 3 or 4 more concepts. And I just offhandedly mentioned to one of the women, you can be really honest with us. If it wasn't working, she said, oh, we just felt like we had to pick one. And I said, no, you don't have to. You're the client. If those, we say 3 to 5 concepts, but if the 3 to 5 concepts weren't hitting the mark for everybody and you wanted to see some more ideas, tell us, because here we went another round, which was some more time also. So, Catherine and I have been doing this for a long time. We don't get thrown. We stick to the process, and we always come out. They're extremely happy with the logo. We had to take 1/2 step back, and then we moved forward, and they are very, very happy and thrilled with their logo. So we'd rather know than not know. So communication.
Jerry, do you think it makes sense to go to the questions now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So, Brian.
And where did we start before?
Well,
I have
started,
one.
but I had my first question already answered.
Okay. Yep.
Hey, I do have one.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering, looking at everything we've read that you sent us, what did you think about what you learned from us, our green and growing, and the prior work done with NECOG to get to this point? Is that something that you can work with, or do you like to develop your own concepts?
Well, to be honest, Brian, we've never been given so much information up front, so that it was, this is refreshing. Usually when we come in, we're asked to do this foundational work, but we are not given probably as much time as they had to put this document together. So this is a great place for us to start. Do we like to do our own? Well, we'll do our own anyway, because we'll take what we've learned. This is almost like input from you. This is like a huge conversation with you in this packet. So we'll take that and we look at everything through our creative lens. So we're looking at things a little bit differently than you are. But all of this is important in the work that we're doing. It all gets intertwined together. What I enjoyed was the phone call that we had the other night with the wayfinding signs. It was a little bit like I was in school with the polls, but what I learned there was a little bit more about your town. I mean, it made me want to get in my car and just drive up there and start walking around, and which I do plan to do, but it was a nice insight into the town, and it gave me a little sense of the culture and the people there, and how the town was set up, and how you think of yourselves. So that was also very insightful for me.
Amy, that's a perfect segue to the question that I'll be asking of each of the three finalist candidates here. And again, up to this point, we've been in proposal land, which is you telling us about you and your process. Sure. And so that we can decide what we think of you. But what I want to know, based on what you've read, seen, attended, is what your impressions are of us, because that's what's going to give me insight into your thought process as you're going to be creating your plan for us. Sure.
Do you want me to tell you now what my impression was, or do you want?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So I understood you to be sort of sleepy as a town, or thought of by the rest of the state, not as traveled, a little off the path, because it sounded like there was not a direct way, or you have some nice attractions, but you're just sort of quiet. I sensed that there was a lot of pride in your town, as there should be. I would think that I would want to bring that out in the branding of your town, the history, and just that you're a beautiful part of Connecticut, very worthy of a stop, of spending a day there, of having a business there, of having a family grow up there. So I think just, putting a spotlight on you and bringing out the many assets of your town, but still that you have that sort of quiet rural charm. I don't know that, I didn't get the sense that you wanted that to go away. You just wanted to highlight that you're a wonderful place for businesses and people to go to.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Santos, you had some questions maybe?
I can go.
Go ahead, Leslie. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. My question is, so tell me about what we'll be left with. So after we have, you know, sort of our tagline, we have a logo maybe in place and a plan. Tell me about what that rollout and what we'll be left with, and how you would guide us in that, you know, long-term marketing plan.
Mm-hmm. So starting with the logo and the tagline, we would create we always put together little brand standards to go with the logo of how it would be used. So it just, you know, here's your colors, here's your fonts, here's how the logo should be used. That's important for anything that you do. That might be important for the people making the signs, for example, that sort of thing of how to use your logo so that there's consistency in your branding across the board. Then with the plan would consist of, we start with your goals, and then we strategically figure out how you're going to, what marketing tactics, what ways can we get you to reach those goals. So we outline those steps. If you ask us to, if you give us a budget number, we can put a budget to it, or you can, because you could look at the steps and put a budget to it, but we would recommend what things were priorities. We could put together a calendar for you if you'd like us to, of how we would recommend you roll out the tactics in the plan. And then also with each tactic, we have a way of suggesting how you measure the success of the tactic. And we also tell our clients any marketing plan, especially, I mean, I think due to current unfortunate events, people are realizing more and more it's hard to plan. It's hard to plan sometimes even to the next week when we were at the peak of this, as so many states are going through now. So the plan is a living document. The plan is meant to grow as you grow, to pivot when you need to pivot. So that's basically, and you know, you'll see when we write it that there are ways for you to maneuver within the plan, pending certain things, pending funding, pending, you know, conditions, climate, you know, business climate and things like that. So we try to build a very sound steps forward, very clear, but with, think of it as like pants with an elastic waist, if you will, you know, so room to move around as needed. I hope I answered your question, Leslie, did I? Yes, okay, good.
Brian Santos?
Is that, I see on your list here, as far as references go, is
Yeah.
NESC, is that New England Specialty Concrete by any chance?
No, I think it's New England Computer Systems.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. Very
Yeah,
good.
their
Okay.
product is Entree, which is that's their main product that they're known for. It's an application for restaurateurs to order supplies and things online. So very different from concrete, but yeah. Do they have the same acronym?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I ask because they do a lot of concrete work for me, and it just happens to be the exact same name.
Right.
And I see here he's worked with approximately for 5 years.
Right.
I know them so well that I know it would take them 5 years to be able to come up with some marketing material.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
I thought you did a great job on your proposal. It's very professional.
Thank you.
Leslie asked the question I was going to ask. I am all set.
Thank you, Brian.
I have a follow-up to the answer that you gave, Leslie.
Sure.
How much hand-holding on the rollout do we get?
Well, I guess it varies from client to client. So I would guess my follow-up question, your follow-up question would be, how much do you think you need?
So let me give you a background.
Sure.
So we have no marketing department.
Right.
Probably realize that. We have a social media intern.
Okay.
Who's high school, first or second year college. And they work 10 hours a week.
Right.
So that's and all of us are, you know, doing a piece of things for the town. And I'm just, you know, wondering if we're handed a plan and then we got to run with it. I'm just trying to figure that out.
Sure. So, well, we take all those things into consideration, Renee, when we're writing the plan. We look at what your availability of, everyone's time and, staffing availability is. So we wouldn't write a plan that there was no way you could possibly implement.
Okay.
So, right. So if we had a social media intern for 10 hours a week, you'd have a content calendar with when that person could post and what they could do within 10 hours a week or less. So,
Okay.
right, we would get to know you, get to know everyone and what your availability was and, realistic availability was, and we would write the plan based on things you could actually accomplish and do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to question, I think Leslie might have asked.
I have another one if you're not.
Go ahead. Maybe it's the one.
No, it's different. I'm wondering if you could share sort of your Pride success story. It'd be great if it was connected to a municipality or, an organization that worked with the municipality, but something that you're particularly proud of from start to finish and, what that looked like.
Oh, geez, I have several. Well, one of them that was in the deck was the New London Public Schools. It was a huge board that I was working with because they brought in different people. They even had a student on there. They had a lot of different people who don't normally work together. So they were sort of the branding subcommittee. So we had everyone from the mayor, and the board, the head of the Board of Education to a student and some teachers and, so forth. Our criteria for that logo, when we started the kickoff meeting, they said they wanted to have a nod to their whaling history. They're very proud of their whaling history. They wanted to have something in there for education. What else, Catherine? I can't remember.
Well, there was history, and then like equally as important was like showing that they're not like it, they're forward thinking. So it was kind of a balance of those two things. They have three sort of main categories that they like to focus on for their learning, and I don't remember what they are at the moment. But
Could you guys scroll to the images from that campaign in your deck?
Honestly, there was so much criteria that they gave us. There really was only one solution, and we found it.
I just saw the whale. I was like, whale. I went back. I just found the tail. I was like, oh, okay, there's the tail.
Oh, nice.
We've got a book. We've got a whale. We've got a ship moving forward, cutting through the waves with the three pillars of their direction of education. And we threw a horizon sun in there just to give it a grounding. Their colors were already the gold and green.
mm-hmm.
But I was very proud of this because honestly, if I showed you the creative brief, this is the only thing it could have been. We tried many other things, but there was always like something missing. But where's the whale? But where's the? So that's one. I think if I could give one more, which I didn't. I don't know. Do we have a minute? If I could open up the other deck. Real
Sure.
quick.
Can I just ask a follow-up question to that? So on that project, it was strictly the logo design. So that, and then the rollout of that logo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because somebody else was they were doing the brand. We were in charge of the branding. They had already hired another agency to do the website. We can do websites as well, but they were already on board before we got there. So they just handed the branding over. So this was the other one I was going to mention, which is the City of New Haven. This one was very meaningful to me for a couple reasons. Number one, I'm not going to date myself, but back when I was in high school, the big deal was to go into New Haven for the Jazz Festival. We'd get a big blanket, you'd bring your family, you'd walk around, you'd talk to everybody. It's a big social event. Over the years, I went off to school, etc. The festival had died down. It was almost defunct. The City of New Haven Cultural Affairs Office called Elements, and asked if we would rebrand the festival. And this was the first year. We did it for many years, but they went from nobody coming to the Green to having the largest recorded audience, attendance ever on the New Haven Green. And I attribute it all to the marketing and strategy that Barbara Lamb, who was the then director of the Cultural Affairs Office, and I put together. She gave me a lot of creative leeway. I hired Elvis Swift was the illustrator for that trumpet. He did several instruments other than the trumpet. I had told her to order me more t-shirts. She was used to having, you know, a very small crowd. The first hour of the first night, all of the t-shirts and all of the posters sold out. We had a scramble before the next weekend. We ordered, you know, 10,000 more shirts, 10,000 more posters sold out before the end of the show. So this was, it just came back in like such a huge way. The mayor was excited, you know, everybody was really happy, and I was happy because I got my festival back. They don't have it any longer because actually after, I don't want to sound like I'm, you know, tooting my own horn here, but after Barbara retired the same year that I was pregnant with my son, and this festival's in July and August, and he was born in June, and I just said, I can't do the festival this year after doing it for years because it's a huge, huge, huge project. There's bus tails and print ads and billboards, and I said, I can't do it this year. And the festival just, I think they had it another year or two, and it's not.
I'm gonna get back again to Leslie, one of the questions Leslie asked.
Sure.
About a comprehensive, and she had mentioned we go in a lot of different directions. We have an active library, we have an active historical society, we have an active recreation department, and we are pulling all these folks together. And I guess we want to gather your thoughts on how to make that work, and how would you be part of that, and and a comprehensive, like from the whole brand. So it's the social media, it's the Twitter, whatever we're doing. It's the website, whatever, you know, we have a new website, but what can we do to tweak it? Like the whole shebang.
Right, right. So I think your question is, how do we work with all of those different people from different,
right?
They're interested in, like, I'm interested in my library, I'm interested in my rec center, right? That sort of thing.
Right.
So that was, I think this project, wait a minute, where is it? The Art Beat, is that in here, Catherine?
It is, it's towards, keep going.
So the Arts Council of Greater New Haven hired Elements to promote all the art venues in New Haven. So I had a board made up of everybody, the Historical Society, the British Art Museum, someone from Yale was there, Neighborhood Music School, everybody was on this board when I did Art Beat. So I came up with the name Art Beat, the Pulse of a Greater New Haven. And then off of this, I came up with, which isn't on here, but it was Art Spot, a happy hour with a twist, I think it was. And we had a traveling happy hour that went, because they were trying to get younger crowds to go into the different art venues. So they would open them up at night. So they'd open up like the Yale Art Gallery at night, and they would have a happy hour there. And it was so popular, attracted the news. They got thousands and thousands of dollars of press for free. But this was working with a huge board and the mayor's office. They had a press conference outside of City Hall. And when they came out of the press conference, all of those street banners you see were hanging up everywhere in the city. They'd put them up while the press conference was going on. I had to coordinate all of that. And it was, so I guess what I would say to that is, I go in there and I stood in front of, you know, this huge board of people, very huge room. And I got early buy-in. I said, here's what I'd like to call it. Here's my creative idea. Listened to everybody's feedback in the room, went back and took everything in, and came back and presented again my revised concept. And everyone loved it. And from there, you know, just because I had the early buy-in and everyone felt included and everyone felt heard, I addressed everybody's question in the room when I did my presentation. They loved it. And once everybody threw their 100% support behind it, it was an enormous success for them. So that's how we roll with that. We listen to everybody. I mean, that's the important thing, is everybody wants to be heard. And everybody wants to be considered, and we want that. We want everybody to be included, to come up with the best solution. Our job is wonderful when everybody's behind it and supporting it. It makes it really wonderful for us, and it gives us great joy when they
Speaking of
love it.
hearing from everybody, does anybody have an additional question?
I'm
No.
all set, Renee. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm set.
Great. All right. Well, there aren't any other questions. Thank you all very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you considering us. So we'll look forward to hearing your decision, and good luck with that. And the other.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we are in a position to make this decision for our fiscal year end, so the final candidate choice will definitely be made by next Tuesday. So I'll be in touch with you no later than that.
Okay. All right. Well, very good luck with your decision. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Jamie, thanks, Catherine.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay, so Laura is in the waiting room. Anything before we go let her in? Okay.
I'm good so far.
Yeah.
Hi, Laura.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, Renee.
You have a mix of folks here. Tara's on the line. You have EDC members and branding members, rec director, just so you know.
Okay.
So we're just asking folks to, do an overview, and then we'll have some questions and then a wrap up if necessary.
So, yeah, it wasn't what kind of overview, just based on the questions of what
Tara sent out.
Yeah, sent out like, do you have examples of work and of particularly of municipality work? So that's what we've got. We're waiting for Marianne to come on.
Oh, okay.
So,
good. And you can share, ask to share screen, and you'll be let in to do that.
Yep, and I have so I have the examples set up for share screen, which was what you requested. There's Marianne popping on now.
Yep. Hello, Marianne.
Good morning.
Mm-hmm. So just we're looking for an overview from you, and then we'll have some questions and perhaps a wrap up if needed.
Okay, so you saw that there were two names on this, T2 Creative and MadCom. Marianne and I have been working together for nearly 20 years as a team. And the way we work is we have formed kind of a virtual agency. Marianne is an expert PR person and marketer, strategist, and her husband, Kyle, is our tech guy. He's a web developer. He works on our email platforms, that sort of thing. I'm a graphic designer and an illustrator, and I do a lot of marketing, writing, and strategy concept work as well. And then we source out to other people, media buyers and freelance assistants, especially in deep like Microsoft Office work for helping set up templates and so forth for clients. So we have a pool of people to work to bring on and work with, and Marianne and I have worked together great for years. So you can count on us being a solid team for sure. We've done quite a bit of branding work, and we have both done separately and together town work. Do you have any questions at this point? Or is everybody set?
Do you want to, I imagine you're going to move on and tell us about those
the pieces of
branding
some
work.
examples, yes. So may I share screen, please?
Yes, so if you request, it should let you.
Let's see.
Under share screen.
Yep, I'm seeing.
Okay.
Share. Okay.
There you go.
Are you guys seeing this?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so first you had asked for municipal, and this is not totally branding work, but it was. This was a project that was just completed for the Wyndham schools. They had their budget book to put forward, and they really wanted to start to create a look based on their existing logo of the frog. So, and make it fun and interesting for the Board of Education. So they also did not have money to create the book outright. They needed tools that they could build on. So what was done for this project is we created a color palette for them and built these color palettes as templates all inside of Microsoft Word and in PowerPoint. And I created leader pages that they could insert as PDFs, and then they were given templates for the pages in Word so that they could produce this document in-house. So I'm just going to flip through it quickly here. So this was actually done in-house, not these pages, but these pages were done in-house with templates given to them by just the admins at Wyndham. And they've carried these colors forward. We also gave them a font management book using just fonts that were available on their system so that they were able to create all of these pages and are now going forward using these templates and this information on their future documentation. So it's a very extensive book. I created the divider pages for them, and then they built the rest of it. An example of what was given to them for this, why are we not going? These were PowerPoint templates that were just set up so that they could, why am I not running here? There we go. So that they would know what they should look like and they could create them on their own. All the colors, fonts, sizes were all pre-built for them. So that was a municipal project. Some of you may know that, particularly Tira, that I am working with the town of Pomfret right now to develop their airline trail. Yeah, anytime now. All right, well, I don't really know what's going on. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Do you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
Yep.
So this is the kiosks that are being created for the town of Pomfret, which we're not fitting in. And the maps you see are marked FPO because they are being worked on, not by me. I'm just trying to art direct them somewhat. I believe NECOG is working on those. So this airline trail project, I also did the branding for the state park, and they are using it throughout the airline trail right now. It was using the state park brown because that's critical for them, and then adding the blue and the cream colors in and trying to have kind of a historical look for the airline trail. Kind of thrown at me at the last minute was the fact that all kiosks appearing or touching the trail must be branded with the Airline Trail State Park. So that was kind of a sudden change for me, but we have developed these panels to have a state airline trail section that just drops in with the map. These Pomfret signs, I've done a lot of the writing and research for as well. There are many of them, and I'm only showing a few of them here. Anyway, there's bigger ones at the depot, etc. The town of Pomfret does not have a logo. They only have a typeface and a color. So that is what we've been working with, is the blue and this particular font. As part of the airline trail project, again, finding out kind of at the last minute that the airline trail wanted a branded look, and I kind of created this. I was also working with the Connecticut Audubon Society, and so they had on-site trail maps as well. So this is what an airline trail state park map with your map here inserted in from another municipality or another conservation group that would need to drop in a map and wayfinding on the airline trail. So it has all the state park information and all of the organization's information on it. It's kind of a lot, but it fits. That's all we can say about that. Marianne and I extensively worked on the Farmer's Cow brand. Do you guys know the Farmer's Cow brand by any chance?
Yeah.
You guys
Yep.
We better.
Yeah, you should. So I was the original brand manager and marketing person for the Farmer's Cow. I started in 2004 working for the Farmer's Cow. I worked on every piece of packaging I touched, Marianne, would you pretty much say?
Everything that a consumer would see and recognize as the Farmer's Cow brand had Laura's fingerprints on it.
And Marianne was brought in as the, Kyle was brought in for the website management, and Marianne was brought in as public relations, and did a great job getting an amazing amount of press for the Farmer's Cow in the years that she was doing that. She is now currently the social media manager for the Farmer's Cow, and she and I are working on the Farmer's Cow ice cream project. So we've done a ton of work for the Farmer's Cow. You were looking for kind of wayfinding. I know we talked about that being important with the signage stuff. So I wanted to show you that what we did for the Farmer's Cow Cafe, which is a subset of that project, obviously. And the Farmer's Cow, has anyone been to the Farmer's Cow Cafe in Wyndham? Nobody? Anyway, it's at the end of a strip mall in across from Eastbrook Mall. And I was instrumental working with the architect to do all the colorways and set up all the interior signage, menu boards, everything. So this was the original drawings that went to the various sign manufacturers and to the architect. And then these images show the results of what it looked like inside. The exterior with the lime green and the big cow, and the milk bar instead of a soda machine, pictures of the cows on the walls. And also as part of that, we worked on everything, the print files, the website. So you've got the web here. These were loyalty cards. This was the logo and reverse logo. These were stickers that were used on all the paper products, so we didn't have to pay to print them. Direct mail, stationery, and signage. So that's the Farmer's Cow. And then I wanted to show you a very recent rebrand that we did within the last year. And this is a local company. They're in Columbia Manufacturing. They're an aerospace parts manufacturer. They work mostly in sheet metal. Do forgive the clip art plane. I totally understand that that's what it is, but their original logo that we were working with didn't have this plane. It had another clip art plane, and they put it to the vote. We had other options for logos, but it was put to the floor to all the manufacturing employees, and they really liked this little clip art plane. So we work with what, we'll give them what they want, and I don't think it's terrible. It's not our first choice, but it's certainly, we were able to roll it out for them. So this is their logo. We have a small bug for other uses. They were provided with used stuff. Let's see, can I just switch here? Here we go. Oh, sorry. This is what they did not need a large branding guide. A simple branding guide showed them what the logos should look like. Don't compress it. These are what your files are. These are the colors that you use. And that's because they do a lot of their own in-house stuff, especially when they're pitching other manufacturers and trying to just get a PowerPoint out. They need to be able to set that up themselves. Whoops, wrong way. Oh, I'm totally going all over the place. I'm sorry about that. Close up. We did their website, which was very extensive and features a lot of their parts. It was a very huge project, but we carried the brand through there. So this is the web version of it. You could go online and check them out if you wanted to. We did trade show booths using using that same look, and provided templates for them to make parts lists. And we also created, did not order the production, but we're given, this is, oh, we need to do this and this, can you give us a place? These are just environmental graphics. Sorry, I didn't get the photos. They took them and sent them to us, and I'm just grateful to have those. But this is their new signage, which is out front. This is an interior sign that fills a huge wall. I think it's 30 feet. And then this is what their on vehicle installations look like. So that's what I have for samples.
Yeah. And I've got a couple.
And now Mary Ann, I'm going to go over to her. So can you share can you let Mary Ann share screen now?
Yeah, I see that I can have control here. So I just wanted to add with Laura's work, the real focus of the brand work that Laura has done, particularly with the Farmer's Cow and the cafe, was to really create immersive experiences within the brand, and to be able to carry that through so that folks can be able to really interact and live the brand. And I think it's something that has been able to withstand the test of time exceptionally well. One of the things that I've worked on from a municipal level, it's not a town, but I'm sure you folks in Thompson are intimately familiar with Teague. I have been working with Teague for the last, since 2004, working with them as a strategic partner to help them create their annual campaigns. And these annual reports, this is the archive of annual reports that I've worked with the executive directors, first Donna Grant and now Ann Miller, to create annual campaigns that really present a brand story around Teague, so that the community can have greater awareness and engagement with Teague as an organization. I'm really proud of this work. I've been doing this as a pro bono, as a volunteer for them all these years. And many of the reports over the years have won awards from the PRSA, the Public Relations Society of America. Something that I'm proud of, as well as Teague. And most importantly, it's really helped to be able to raise awareness for Teague as it's grown, particularly with Thompson and Woodstock, Putnam, throughout the region, and to get people to understand the story. And the role that I've played with all of this has been to work with the executive directors to develop what the messaging story is. And what is that theme? Every year the annual report comes out and it's something entirely different, but there's a consistency of message and brand behind it, and that's the role that I play with it. We've also worked with Teague to develop this website, so we are their web support for Teague, as well as for their social media support when they need that. But again, we're really looking to have them be as self-sufficient as they possibly can. Other pieces of municipal work that we've done, this is MAP Communications. We did not work with Laura Tedeschi on this project, but this was for the Northeast District Department of Health. We worked with them to create their website several years ago, and we also worked with Linda Colangelo, the communications director for the district, to do the marketing strategy, and helped her through the entire year-long effort of Follow the 50 that you may recall happened up in Northeast Connecticut a few years back. That was a really wonderful campaign. And other municipal projects that we've been involved with, we worked with the town of Ashford to create a user-friendly website, particularly that would be something that residents could really be able to find what they're looking for, as well as make it easier for the town staff to be able to make information available. There hasn't been any brand work around this, but the project in itself as a user-friendly website has been incredibly well received by the town and by the residents. We also have, move this here. We were also have created a town website for the town of Sterling. And this is definitely, it's not as robust as the Ashford town site because they really wanted something that would just be very simplistic for their staff and their residents to get just the really essential information they need to communicate in Sterling. So those are a few examples of the municipal work that we have done here at Map Communications. And again, this is in addition to all of the work that I've done over the years to support Laura and the brands that we work on together, including Columbia Manufacturing and the Farmer's Cow and the Farmer's Cow Cafe, as well as a number of other clients.
Would you like to speak to Latimer and Clarion? Just give us a range of how long we've worked together and the type of clients that we've worked with.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop sharing so that we don't have a distraction here going on as far as that. But Laura and I, as she had mentioned, we began working together. I think the first client that we had in common was in 1999. We began working together for a consultancy that was based out of West Hartford called the Clarion Group. And they were a national, very high level management consulting firm. And we worked with them for 6 or 7 years at least. Doing their, they did quarterly newsletters that were really impressive publications that included really in-depth thought pieces that would go, I think they had a print distribution of 1,000 or so of those. And Laura would create original illustrations and cover art that ended up being wall pieces, just fantastically beautiful illustrations that would go along with these very in-depth teaching articles. And we did those quarterly for several years, as well as working with them to create their website and other communications materials. And another company
I don't mean to interrupt, but we are running short on time.
Certainly.
But get to your questions. Certainly.
Yeah, I think we have some really good questions out there. So I don't know who wants to go first. One of the questions.
Go ahead, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay, I love the idea of the templates and making it, because we don't have a marketing team and all of that, we're a small community. But what are the deliverables with this proposal? I couldn't pull that out of your proposal.
So we can define what those things would look like, but we'll probably, we can provide like a base Word document, but probably not to the depth of the Wyndham piece that you saw. So we would provide font usage, and clearly it's probably going to have to be things that you either have in-house or are able to easily get, or they're free installations or whatever it is, so that, because I totally get that. That's a situation for you. But you would get a panel with colors on it, and they would be labeled by RGB, CMYK, so that you can reproduce them if someone's working for you or if you're just looking at them. And I can provide fonts and font sizes set up in Word documents for you for that. But to get in depth and to have templates built with master colors, that would probably be additional.
Okay.
And I also think that one of the deliverables for this project would be the plan in itself. And that plan would be able to articulate, once we have defined what exactly your needs are, we can specify the recommendations in the plan for what needs to be created, and then give potential budget ranges for what execution of those projects would be.
Then you could pick and choose.
Right.
So we're not going to walk out of this with a logo.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yes.
you'll have yes.
Okay, I guess I wasn't getting that from what you
No,
just
well, you were asking about like
Yeah,
templates and so
well,
forth.
I guess all delivery.
Your question didn't yes, no, you would have, and the logo, I believe I pretty much stated out, we'd have, 3 rounds of logo, working with the team and identification. But then if we get deeper into that, we go into an hourly rate beyond that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, this is in the brand style guide section. That's what I thought you were asking about.
I'm
So
sorry.
sorry about that. No, absolutely. You would get a logo and a very simple brand style guide and a couple of templates. But if you wanted in-depth stuff like the Wyndham, we would have to do, more to do that.
And as part of the overall brand development, the logo development, you'll also get basic positioning, which is going to have some platform language around what that brand is.
Kira, did you have a question?
Well, I've been asking the same question of everyone to sort of keep it on an even keel. You guys tuned into the webinar on this past Tuesday. All 3 of the final candidates did, which was great to see. So as I've phrased it in the other rounds of questioning here, to take it away from the proposal idea, in other words, you telling us about you, I'm curious about your impressions of what you have seen of us, and that's through that wayfinding webinar or the brand plan that we shared, or just any other impressions that you may have, because that's going to help us sort of see where your thought process is in terms of opening the conversation with us.
First of all, I'm really impressed with the size of the town, that the energy that you've been able to bring to bear to this. And I realize that with a small town, you probably have pushback for spending money on this sort of thing, and think even like, why do we even need to do this? I'm sure you're dealing with that. So the energy and the professionalism that you've brought to the work that you've accomplished so far is very impressive. I see you have some significant challenges in the way Thompson is very broken up. You don't have a cohesive town unit. You've got one side of the highway is so agricultural, and you've got the ag business, you've got Fort Hill, you've got the historical site, and then you've got your historical hill, then you have the Mill Village, which has a ton of potential, especially if you really are getting the river mill redeveloped. But you've definitely got challenges, and I do believe that your idea of using wayfinding as a way to pull things together with the town is brilliant, actually, because if you can get some kind of cohesive look and feel, and somehow have budget to display it across the town, it will then maybe hopefully have the residents feel like it's all coming together, like they're all one unit. I really feel like it's not one side of the tracks or the other, it's one side of the highway or the other. And you've got to pull those 2 units together and make them feel like it's all one thing. So that's kind of what I saw looking at the wayfinding proposal and the branding proposal. It's a big challenge, but I do think that it's a small town, and if you get people behind it, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be successful.
And as far as the NECOG study, there was just a ton of great information in that is going to really deeply inform the strategy work of the brand and how that comes together. There's clearly so many things that need to be accomplished all cohesively, but they really are outlined very well in that study, looking beyond, what the EDC is doing to also looking at zoning regulations and how all of the town needs to pull together to support this green and growing initiative. So I think there's a lot of positive energy there, and there's a lot of substance in the report that we would be drawing from and wanting to work with you on to extrapolate into how do we make that into a communications plan that can be brought forward.
I have a question about your green and growing. So how many different iterations of thought went behind that? And how did you come to the idea of green and growing?
You want to take that, Renee?
Oh, boy. Well, I think going through the process with NECOG and highlighting what we felt were our assets, which were our outdoor recreation, our agriculture, our green, you know, being part of the last Green Valley. We obviously wanted to capitalize on that. We wanted to, but preserve our, you know, the uniqueness of Thompson and the character and all of that, rural character and all of that. And it just really came down to, at one of our branding meetings, Tara threw it out and it stuck. Simple as that. It was like, okay, it's good as any, to be honest with you. And then it's really grown on us. So that's where we're at.
I was just curious if the word green meant environmentally sustainable as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I spit it out there at that meeting, we'd gone through a couple of iterations, most of which had been suggested by John Filchak at NECOG. What was his original one? Close enough but far enough away, or something like that, which people found standoffish. And you know, so I was just trying to get to the essence of what the place was. You know, the things that people were coming back and saying, that they valued the farms and the trails and the outdoorness. And yes, it also, it's such a multi-purpose symbol, that idea of green, and that's how I've presented it every time we've had to talk about it. Yes, it's the green of fields, and yes, it's the green of sustainability, but it's also the green of economic growth. So, you know, it worked on a lot of different levels, and thankfully Charlene was there, who actually tagged community onto the end, because I'll forget about that part if left on my own devices. So the full thing is the green and growing community, to tie all those elements together, that we want it to be unified. And that was where that all kind of landed.
Yep.
Okay.
Did anyone have any other questions? Leslie, Brian?
I don't think I do.
No, I think all my questions that I have been asking were answered. So
I'll just make a, considering we're kind of closing up here, I'll just make a statement. Great job, ladies. Thank you very much. Just to Mary Ann, thank you very much for your dedication to the team. Very important. And Laura, I think you hit the nail on the head for me about, you know, understanding and then bringing the quote unquote areas together is going to be a very big challenge, and making sure that those areas met with one mission, and putting that in a branding is very, very, so I think you hit the nail on the head for that. But thank you very much.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Any
Thank
last
you.
comments? You're good?
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you for taking the time to dial us in and looking at our wares, and hope to hear from you soon.
Thanks for sharing. And
Yeah, and just to give an idea of time frame, Laura and Marianne, we're up against our fiscal year, which ends on Tuesday. So this decision will be made before then, and you'll hear from me Monday or Tuesday of next week.
All right.
thanks
Thank
again.
you very much.
Wonderful.
Have a nice weekend, folks.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye-bye.
So we'll go out of executive session and into the regular meeting. Oh, boy.
you can record. Or...
Yeah. So who would like to go first?
Well, go ahead. No, go.
I just I'll open up with you know, I do a lot of presentations for my company, and there's a few things. I'll say three. Number one things. They're all kind of in a row. They're all number ones as far as I'm concerned. Energy. Who is the most prepared, and who presents the best message as a teamwork environment? And those are the kind of the things that I look at when others are presenting to me. I don't know if others have the same views, but those are the three top things that I project to my teams when we're doing this type of presenting. And I'll add at the very end of that, and that the owner of the company does not do all of the talking or answer all of the questions. So those are the top things that I look for when I'm, you know, reviewing these presentations myself. So I'll just say that. And
I'll start with, I think that when we first were selecting, we were on the fence about choosing 2 or 3 to present. And we went with 3 and brought elements in to present. And I would say of the 3 presentations, they probably were the least, you know, I think aware of Thompson or responsive, or I would just say that they still currently in my mind are ranked 3. So for me, they were 3rd in the beginning and they didn't do anything to bring themselves up. So I'm really looking at
who was that, Leslie? I missed that.
Elements.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree 100%.
They were kind of third. I think they were 3rd on our list. We were on the fence about bringing them in, and in my mind, they didn't do anything to squeak themselves any higher. So I would think that they're kind of out of the running at this point, and we're really looking at Sullivan, Lashane, and T2 Creative.
I can agree with
I
that.
agree. I agree completely, Leslie. I think they squeaked in based on their aesthetics, which I thought were the best presented, even though they weren't necessarily the most resonant with what we were trying to do.
They're a logo. They're a company you hire to do a logo. You get a logo, and then that's the impression I got from it. We need a little.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. I think we're down to talking about Sullivan and Lashane versus T2. I have an opinion on this subject, but I would submit that the choice is between whether you think the most important thing we're getting out of it is PR and advocacy, or whether the most important thing that we're getting out of it is the aesthetic package, because I think each of those has a different strength, although both had elements of both.
I thought T2 was weak on deliverables. It sounds like we're gonna, I don't know.
Yes.
Didn't feel very.
I'll take a nod from Charlene on this one, where I think the impression that I got from T2 Creative was like, oh, well, you're a small town and like, we'll do what you can afford. And like, you know, we'll do what we can to help you out. But the message I got from Sullivan Lashane was, you have a lot to offer and we know you're going places and we want to help you get there.
Absolutely.
That's the impression that I got from those.
I feel completely agree. I think, in my opinion, I felt Sullivan and Lashane, it was a runaway for them.
Yes.
It was a runaway.
I think they see the potential for this project leading to other things. Like, well, maybe other businesses in town will see the great thing that we do. Maybe there's, you know, more. This is just the tip of the iceberg. They see that we are, I think that we are, you know, gearing up, and that, you know, it could become more, it could lead to more. And they, I don't know, I think they did a really great job. They were professional, organized, concise. Like what you said, Brian, they shared back and forth. You know, everyone seemed to.
Well, they understood each other's roles, and I think that's very important for this type of thing, not only for themselves and for us, but to keep it organized, keep it structured, and be able to have us focus and get things accomplished. If you can't start off like that, then you're in a tailspin from day one. Now, I'm not saying that T2 isn't capable of doing that, but I completely agree with Renee's comment that the deliverables are kind of spinning a little bit out of control for me, and may not, they might not have wanted to project that. The only time that they truly captured me was when Laura said at the very end about the areas and bringing them together, and trying to make sure that that was understood. That was the only time that T2 really captured my attention. But I really enjoyed Sullivan and Leshane's the entire time.
If I could chime in a little, I agree. And, you know, I like Sullivan and Leshane from the beginning, but their presentation was, it was really us. And like you all said, they work apparently well together. They all had something to say. They all had their input, which means a lot to me. It looks like we can actually work with them. I like the deliverables, their perception of the town. T2, to Leslie's point about elements, I was thinking there's a group that'll do a logo. And yeah, I didn't get a good feeling we were going to get a lot for our money. Everything was a la carte.
From T2?
Yeah,
From T2.
Yeah, I got the
Yeah.
feeling that maybe they'd worked with towns before and they get the impression that we won a lot for a little bit of money. So maybe they've experienced that before where, you know, we have big eyes and, you know, small pockets. So,
Yeah.
so I think
Their work with the towns was weak. It was, oh, we did a logo here and we didn't really work with them, but we did this. There was a lot of strength in you know, projecting what we want, except like Brian said, the very end, that's where, oh, gee, that's us. Where she was looking at our strengths.
Well,
It was
Yeah, I'll say that as I was looking at them, I also agree that Laura's very frank answer to what her impressions are of us, I appreciated that it was frank and not in broad generalities. And that's probably, you know, informed by the fact that she is regional. She's here and could speak more specifically. I'll say that of the two remaining candidates, they obviously have much stronger aesthetics. I agree that the deliverables described by Sullivan and Leshane were vastly better. I honestly could go either way. I was leaning toward T2 at the end of their presentation solely on the aesthetics and the fact that they're working on projects that tie into projects we are working on. I think that that is a benefit. But from the second they sent us their proposal, Sullivan and Leshane had gone out of their way to do the homework and address the topics, even if it was on a surface level. At some, you know, it's in some ways because they kept coming back to the same sort of few things, the tag sale, and you know, they had honed in on ideas, but they still obviously did that background work. Their enthusiasm in terms of the coming into the meetings and the staying and the communicating with me outside, I think is a super benefit. Joanne hasn't said anything yet.
You there, Joe?
Let me.
She's on mute.
I'll ask her to unmute, but she's got herself muted. I don't think I can change that.
Yeah, Tira, I would agree with you. I think the benefit of T2 is that they are very familiar and there's a cross section of projects that they've worked on, which could, we don't even know where that could lead us and how that could guide and help, you know, our own stuff. So yeah, I mean,
yeah, they talked about. Yeah, they hinted about the airline trail stuff. I enjoyed that as well. Sorry, Leslie.
I think what we'll get from Sullivan and Leshane that we won't get from anybody else who sent in any proposal is those guys are political advocates. These guys are interested in making connections.
It's true.
I think that is their biggest benefit to us, is actually their desire for connectedness.
They're hungry.
Go back to what Brian S. said about energy. I mean, they were the highest, they were the energized group.
Yes.
And I mean,
Joanne's off mute, so we should get her input here.
Okay, Joanne?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Now we
can.
You can?
Yeah, we can
Yep.
hear you.
Oh, okay, terrific. Well, definitely, see, I liked Elements for, I guess, many different reasons, the different reasons than you folks. I thought they were extremely creative. And
Yeah.
maybe that's what I really liked about them.
Yeah.
Whereas I felt T2, they kept mentioning they would recommend fonts and things of, I almost got the impression that they were not going to carry through on anything, that they were just going to leave it to us to get our own printing department. Whereas Elements, they seem to be very flexible, very creative. I thought that they got extra points for that. And Sullivan and Shane, yeah, they were strong, very strong, bigger company, but I still not sure that they're that familiar with us since they're way on the other side of the state. But those are just my thoughts right now.
Some very
Yeah,
good points.
Yeah, I would agree. Element, as far as if you're rating from a graphical standpoint, I think Element would win.
Yeah.
But as far as combining all of the elements together, no pun intended there, I still think Sullivan Lashane will be able to deliver on all fronts.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
You don't think it's too big of a company to understand us small town folks?
Well, they've showed that they are understanding and putting a lot of effort into understanding us.
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot of name dropping, right? So that made us feel warm and fuzzy. But it means they also did their research and they put effort into it. And I agree, Joanne, that Sullivan is not the most creative from what we've seen. But I did like the energy. I liked the deliverables. He talked about the calendar, which we've been talking about forever. And just some real stuff that we can, start using in 2 months' time.
Just in terms of the creative, remember that, and this was actually something that had occurred to me as a possible conflict. We've got Kelsey working on that wayfinding design. It's possible that what she's working on can bolster the weaknesses in Sullivan and Lashane's creative, as opposed to having to fold two different aesthetics to get, like, whoever was going to work on this project was going to have to work with Kelsey.
Right.
So I'm sure Sullivan and Lashane would be perfectly happy to let her take the lead on the aesthetic portion.
Well, I'd be curious, though. I don't know I'd want to shut that down because they could come up with something better than Kelsey. I'm not doubting her.
They could certainly do that. Based on what I saw there was a lot of stock images and I thought their infographics were way better than their standalone stuff. I thought their infographics were terrific. But when you peeled the individual elements out, the individual elements were weaker. So anyway, the point is the same. We have somebody doing some creative background work for us. We had, assuming that what we're talking about is choosing Sullivan Lashane, we have this firm that is clearly more about the connections and the PR and the marketing and the calendars. And that could dovetail better together than two competing creative elements. That's all.
And you just hit on it. I think they're meeting the needs of Thompson. We needed that comprehensive look at us, and that they really, I think, gave us that.
And to Joanne's point about elements maybe working better, being in the area, knowing the small town, I get the feeling that they were very kind of Haven-centric. A lot of their work involved, big city, which just because they might live closer to Thompson doesn't mean that they'd be better at working with Thompson.
Well, that's why I like Lashane. We're getting a few different bodies that can help us in different categories where I felt like T2, I can't remember the young lady's name that was speaking the whole time, but
That was Laura.
they're very, very one-dimensional, and I feel like she's going to get pulled in a couple different directions, and I'm just not feeling comfortable with that.
T2 didn't speak at all to social media or digital campaigns. There's nothing in there, not a piece in there about.
Yeah, the only thing they mentioned is that one of the husbands does websites.
Websites, yeah.
That's right.
Marianne's
Marianne's
husband.
husband.
But it wasn't part of the deliverables specifically either. I don't get a great feeling about what we would get out of T2.
Do we do it? Am I hearing we're
I
ready?
think
to-
I'm hearing consensus here, guys.
Yeah. So how does?
I mean, do we want to vote on it just to formalize it on the recording?
I mean, I
Sure.
think we did agree that each three kind of has their strengths, you know, one being the design element, one being, you know, familiarity with our area, and, you know, one kind of being a more comprehensive long-term plan. So it's what's.
That's the key, Leslie. So can we get a motion?
I move that we vote to choose a vendor from our 3 finalist candidates.
Yeah, so the only thing is, what committee are we right now? We're EDC. So who can make motions?
We're a search committee.
Okay, then if you're saying that, then we have to recommend to EDC. So if we have a quorum.
Well, okay, so I'll withdraw my motion and I'll let an actual EDC member make it then.
I'll make the motion. It's Joanne.
Okay, Joanne.
I'll second.
What's the motion, Joanne?
To award the contract.
That we vote on.
To award the contract to Sullivan and Lashane.
Oh, no, you didn't say that. You said we vote to make a motion to vote. So don't we all, then do we all individually vote?
I mean, it's only 3 choices. So if you do it that way, then, you know, if it doesn't happen to be the case that Sullivan and Lashane is one person's favorite and that's still the majority, then that's fine.
Yeah, I see. So it's the majority. We've all kind of made a majority motion. Then it's Sullivan and Lashane.
Well, you can do it however you want, Joanne. That's how I was thinking of it, but
okay, well,
I'm comfortable either way.
That you did a couple minutes ago to be less confusing. Okay.
I'm confused. So
Which motion do you want to make, Joe?
I think we're voting.
My motion, I just stepped in as a committee member. I was just going to reiterate whatever Tara said 5 minutes ago. Take her name off it as making the motion and just put my name as making the motion. Whatever she said 5 minutes ago.
Well, it's the motion to award the, isn't it?
No, it was just a vote.
Yes, okay.
To vote to award the contract to one of the
So we're not making a motion. We're not making a motion to vote. We're making a motion, then we're going to vote on that motion. So motion to award contract to Sullivan and Lashane. That's the motion. Who's seconding it? Brian Santos said he's second.
Yep.
Now we can vote individually if you'd like. Or we can just all in favor. Aye.
Let's just do all in favor.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion passes.
Nice work.
Okay.
Well done, everybody.
So before we adjourn, we're going to request a contract from them, and we feel confident that Tara can review that and get it into sign. Who has to sign that? Is that Brian Y?
Yeah,
I think you can sign it as branding. Either one of you can sign it as the chairs, I think.
I think Brian Y, because he's got the money. I don't have any money in branding.
That's true.
I don't have a vote on that.
All right, that's fine with me.
Okay, so we'll get them to draft it and get you in ASAP.
Okay,
Fine.
well, regardless, I'll encumber the funds, and then even if
Yeah.
we're late getting the contract, then.
Okay. Motion to
I
adjourn.
motion to adjourn. I
That's
motion
right.
to adjourn. Oh,
Brian
come on, let's
S.
start the week.
I'll second.
Leslie. Who's I've been on the committee. This-
I don't actually really think you need to move to adjourn. I think you can just adjourn.
I agree with you.
That's why I do that with EDC. I don't move to adjourn. I just,
I agree, but some people get upset when I don't have a motion.
well, with EDC, you have to learn.
All right,
Feel like
so
the
we're going
motion-
to end the meeting.
Bye-bye.
12:21.
Enjoy the lovely day, everyone.